One of my favorite songs in the 70s was Chameleon by Herbie Hancock. And so I'm really happy to do this breakdown. It's something I've always wanted to do, and I've never really tried to make the sound as accurately as possible. And I've never owned an ARP Odyssey. I have this ARP Odyssey here, courtesy of Rob Rosen from Rosen Sound. It's an early ARP Odyssey, he told me. So that would be like somewhere around 1972, 1973, early, maybe 1974 at the latest. Herbie Hancock, Headhunters was the name of the album. The song is Chameleon. That came out in 1973. So it was really like done on a brand new instrument, you know, something really new, a new sound. And the Odyssey is a little bit different than an ARP 2600, which was the other ARP synthesizer that was out, and the ARP 2500. It doesn't have patch chords, but it does have a lot of patchability with these little switches here. And these switches route control signal into the horizontal flow, which is the audio flow. So you have the audio flow going horizontally and the control signals going vertically. And it's very similar to a 2600 in that way. So I can help you look at it and it makes sense pretty easily. Pitch section, right? 2 oscillators, that controls pitch. So you're just looking here, and it's pretty much identical. You have the initial frequencies of the oscillators, and then the control signals coming in. There's 2 frequency modulation inputs right here on each oscillator, and then 2 different ways that you can control the pulse wave. The first is the initial pulse width. So is it a square wave? Is it at 50% duty cycle, or you get really skinny one way or really skinny the other way? So I have the pulse wave going really skinny, but then to compensate for that, I'm modulating the pulse width with the ADSR envelope generator. So the way to do that is just knock this switch down so it says ADSR. It starts from a skinny pulse wave and gets fat. So you hear this sort of chorusing effect. And I did that on both oscillators. I started really skinny on this one too, and I'm modulating with the ADSR envelope generator, maybe starting at a different point, so there's a little bit more phasing going on. Both oscillators are in unison, even though the sliders look like one's an octave lower, they're in unison. So that's what's happening with the oscillators. We're not doing anything in this section. There's no LFO involved. There's no sample and hold effect going on. So we skip over to the next section. There's an audio mixer. There's 2 oscillators going into the mixer. One is oscillator 1 with that pulse width action that I told you about, and then the other is oscillator 2. So you have to make sure they're in square wave mode or pulse wave mode, so you can hear the pulse width modulation. Otherwise, if I put them in sawtooth mode, there's going to be 2 sawtooths in the filter, and you're not going to hear any pulse waves going on. So make sure they're in pulse. And then the ADSR envelope generator, which is here, is being routed to control the filter. So you do that by switching the ADSR to control the filter, and then you follow this little arrow and it's going to the filter. So now what's the filter doing? Well, here's the filter. This is our low pass filter. There's also a high pass filter. The low pass filter is voltage controllable, which means I can have the ADSR control its shape. All I have is resonance in the filter. The initial frequency is down to 0, so it's going to require voltage coming from the envelope generator to open the filter. And the shape of the envelope generator, well, we're going to find that if we look at the envelope generator. We see that there's a very slight amount of attack. Here's no attack. Here's a little slow attack. So it just kind of talks a little at the front of the sound. And the decay is really important. It's quick. And then there's some sustain level. And then I made sure that there's a release time. So when I play the note, it doesn't just clip. That would be bad. You get a little more sloppiness. Without it, a little tighter and not as loose, but you don't get that feel on the release. The The last thing that's controlling the sound is the ADSR envelope generator that's controlling the VCA. And you can see that because this switch is down below on the ADSR envelope generator. And so that means this same shape is being routed to the VCA. And the VCA is full. And there's no initial gain on the VCA, so there's nothing leaking through. It's just the attack of the sound is determined by the shape of the ADSR envelope generator. So that's determining the filter shape and volume shape. And that's really all there is to it. There's no portamento. And there's no keyboard control voltage that's tracking with the filter. So when I go up to these high notes, I'll show you what happens if I put keyboard control voltage tracking the filter. You get a very bright sound. So I want it to be, especially up here, instead of, and if I had even a little keyboard control voltage, you would see that it would be brighter up on top. That's a lot. So even a little bit, compared to a little more muted, a little bit more like when a bass player goes up into the high range, and it kind of fit the style. So the bass is not as bright when it goes higher, and it kind of blends into the track a little bit. You just get a little bit more energy from the high note. So it really stood out because it was one of the first songs that I ever heard that really started with just a synthesizer sound, and then a band came in. And when that drum beat just popped in there and had a syncopated rhythm, I was hooked. And I was trying to make that sound on other synths, but I never really studied it. And I realized there's one key ingredient that I was always missing, and something that I've fallen in love with in the last few years, and it's drive, it's distortion, it's overdrive. And key to this sound today is that little bit of papery drive distortion that you hear at the front of the sound. I'll give you a lot so you can hear it. Here's none. It's going to be less level. Here's a little more. Here's a lot. You hear it ripping? When you find the right spot, you get the right distortion, and it gets the character of the sound to kind of fit better into the track. And it creates like harmonics that make it extremely interesting. And also, they're not going to be naturally coming out of the synthesizer. Just like when you do that on a guitar, it kind of takes it to the next level. Like when you play a dry guitar, it's not really happening as much. And then you get a little bit of that harmonic distortion, and you can do something with it when you're playing. So I'm using a preamp to do it. I'm using a Great River preamp, and you can see it right now. And when I play it, you can see the level. And the reason I'm moving these faders on the ARP Odyssey is because I'm sending level to that preamp. So it distorts at just the right place. So I have it set kind of at a maximum there, and then I can control it here and get it where I want it. You may want a lot of distortion. So the last thing I want to come back to is the Odyssey is a single trigger instrument. So I have to articulate each note. And if I don't, it won't play the next note. And an important thing that Herbie Hancock does, he plays a phrase, so it's long, 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 short. Not, listen again. So long, 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 short, 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 long, 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 short, 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 long, 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 short, 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 long, 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 short, short, short. But I have to be very careful to connect the first three notes and be short on the fourth note. So the phrasing is important too. Synthesizers are kind of not the most expressive, especially from the keyboard, especially the old ones. But if you learn how to articulate, you can make them way more expressive, and then they become very expressive. That in combination with the release time, as I showed you before, giving it a little bit more ring out. So learning how to play it, listening to what's there, dialing in your distortion, finding that spot in the groove where it works, all make up what made this sound so great. We really appreciate that all of you like and subscribe to these videos. It means a lot to me and to my team. We're going to keep making more breakdowns, more interviews, and more special edition videos for you. Keep tuning in, and we're keeping on with the energy. Looking forward to more. See you soon.